After the release of the Phantom Liberty DLC for Cyberpunk, the game was overhauled with the 2.0 update, which brought many changes, some good, some bad, some very questionable, to completely revamp the game. One of these changes was a redo of the perk system, which added new abilities. Among them is finally the ability to deflect bullets by using bladed weapons, so you can tell where this is going already. Can you beat Cyberpunk 2077 using bullet deflection? The bullet deflection system did technically exist in the game beforehand, really only being used by certain enemies to block shots at them, and while some modders had taken it upon themselves to have added it for the player. Thankfully, CDPR did some light lifting to integrate it, among other things, into the game proper, and it didn't make it a total hassle to get, as it's in the earliest tree of the reflex attributes, but requires 3 perk points to be able to upgrade it from merely blocking to returning to sender. So that will still require me to level up a couple of times before I can actually fight back, but I will let that story unravel as we go along. I start on the Corpo Life path, and after trying to test out some photo mode mods, I see that the test of YouTube's new adblocker system is doing exactly what they intended. After being the devil on Jenkins's shoulder, I convince him to let me take an extended smoke break at the company's costume party, but HR catches me and gives me my 2-second notice before my bowels empty themselves of company resources. Me and Jack tear apart the town and dance floor before taking our contract to the cleaners. I'll go ahead and say that if you want to consider this as ruining the challenge, then I won't blame you, but I have already done this in the Slotomatic video, and as I've said in another vid, I really don't want to run out of extra file space by doing all this again. I retrieved the woman from her spa trip and sent her off with the drycycle crew, and I did not shoot at the van on the way home before we went to bed. Waking up fresh, I check on my mods and go to Vicky's salon to get a touch up on my eyelashes, nails, and skincare routine before going to run a few non-lethal jobs, such as my startup taxi ambulance hybrid, trying and failing several times to sneak into a shiny face get-together to steal their original Fight Club videos, and then signing on to a moving company, but my CDL was both expired and a forgery, so they sought retribution against my fraudulent hiring by contacting the police. A brave citizen tried to intervene, but it wasn't enough to keep them from finding me, and soon I was sent on an epic chase across the city, trying and failed to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula before deciding that I could be able to finish crimes in progress by ignoring the people in peril and just stealing the evidence from the crime scene. But this wasn't one of them, so I had my talk with Dex. This was enough to level me up to where I could get enough attribute points that I could unlock the deflection perk. But I didn't have enough perk points, plus I was too stupid to remember that I could refund whatever that vehicle perk was, so I ended up doing a few more side quests and my crime in progress plan works perfectly. Was denied entry into Winnie Hut Jr., so I went to a pirate who sent me to try and complete this next crime scene. While it was enough to level me up, I did have to manage to survive long enough to make use of it. Though I also didn't actually use them until I went all the way over to this warehouse after I think I looked up a map of locations that contained legendary spawned items, and then I had to figure out where I was supposed to get a sword because the melee vendors I knew about didn't have any, though in my stash there was a machete for the taking. Finding my first victims, I spent a while trying to aggro them, but we both sort of start goading each other into attacking first. But they finally give in, but my stamina goes right down the drain, which takes half my health. I try to spam block to get the perfect deflections, which seems to work enough to take out one of them, and then the other goes down pretty fast afterwards. One of the first things I do notice is that the damage on a perfect deflection actually deals magnitudes more damage, as shown by how I'm only dealing 2 to this one enemy with a smart gun, but that jumps up to 70, which demolishes him. I don't really take it under tactical consideration for now, but this information will be stored in my head for a later date. Spent a fair bit of time having my game crash as mods seem to be having issues, but after a lot of picking and choosing which to disable, it finally comes up. With a chainsword, I head to another encounter to deliver the Emperor's Fury and test how to best use this system. Sticking to cover, at least right now, seems to be a smart method to manage stamina, while also realizing that using enemies with high rate of fire weapons to take out others is an optimal idea. Got a reminder that enemies with melee weapons do exist, and got killed while trying to process that information, but I resolved it in the next go around. Went to Lizzie's to meet with Evelyn and Judy, which got rid of that tedious section of talking. Met with Marilyn and zoned out on getting the credit card, so I had to redo it. A druggie threw a rock through my window, so I returned the favor. Did a cyberpsycho mission where once again, melee became my biggest downfall, though I discovered that running far enough away seemed to cause them to pull a gun from their asses, so that's good to know. Received the katana, which I immediately tested the screenshot potential before being a party pooper, and was defeated by the power of the oldie but goldie fetal position. Got another katana and wondered if the damage of the weapon being used had any bearing on the damage of deflections. And after a night in the town, I was able to pay off my hospital bills to look for any cyberware that might be useful and getting a reading from Misty. Dicked around for a while to try to level up and otherwise get adjusted to the combat, Figuring out that Netrunners got buffed in 2.0 and witnessing imminent death was terrifying, especially as I thought I wouldn't be able to interrupt it. While over in Watson, I got destroyed by several enemies from all sides, though as I reordered myself to better face them while performing perfect blocks, I accidentally parried the boss, to which I restarted and made him a Second Amendment enthusiast to his own detriment. Spent some time with trying to get my mods straightened back out, which was time consuming, but I might as well try to make things more enjoyable for myself by expanding my ability to flex on everyone with my extended fashion decisions. Intervened in a few gang battles, intervened in a few human trafficking operations, intervened in a hostage situation where the hostage developed feelings for her captors and blamed me for somehow killing someone for doing nothing, when clearly everyone around me this whole time has been killing themselves. I'm perfectly innocent. After this, I was stuck being chased down and killed several times by the same gang hunting me down. As usual so far, the melee one being the biggest issue I try to deal with alongside the police getting caught on me when I occasionally mow down a pedestrian or 2 dozen. Eventually escaped that, did a few more jobs including a takedown of JoJo's version of Elvis, who despite still being alive I couldn't take to the mocks for extra payments. Raided a hospital parking lot where I learned how inconveniencing snipers could be to fight. Then after letting Jackie get ass rash from sitting on his bike for 5 whole days while I continued to do my thing, I eventually met up with him and paid Royce with an expired credit card, which got the American Express debt collectors on our ass. Didn't have any issues aside from a few kill steals and Jackie tackling a corpse into hell. Freed Brick for the XP and moved to the next room, where I got a few skill shards for a relevant skill path. When I got over to the final room with the robots, I got killed and had to do a lot of the level over again. Using the power of friendship against itself, I destroyed one mech and tried to see if I could damage Royce, but I couldn't, meaning Brick's just gonna end up another hole in the wall. Me and Royce teamed up on the last one for an epic finisher. Dum Dum boosted my confidence, and we walked into the paparazzi for our cover shoot. Looked at the purse to see what could help, got chromed out and took a walk to train my cardio when I noticed a dot on my map following me around. At first I thought it was because I was jaywalking, but after witnessing the disregard for semi-human life on display, I became aware that a cyberpsycho was in our midst. I escaped and tried to plan ahead when he barreled ahead into some barrelheads who put down the menace. Turns out he was just highly caffeinated, so I went to avenge the murder of this public servant, where I was then aided by another officer who was happy to donate the department's entire supply of flashbang grenades to the cause. Interrupted a gang war, sold some stuff. Tested to see if the weapon strength affected the projectile damage, which I think it seems to. Changed into my work clothes and went to the afterlife for a private session with Corey in the house. Went to a previous establishment where they formally denied my services as a health inspector to inspect their internal organs but died. The second go around they learned the power of patience and restraint to my vandalism and harassment. I did give one the 5-finger encouragement to rally them all to take action against themselves. Noticing that shotgun enemies are a great source of damage as well, I complete the gig, and despite Regina not liking my performance, I'm sure I left behind what must be the first of many confusing crime scenes for the police, as it seems like they all killed themselves. Left my recording running for over 7 hours, put on the Militech suit and took a few screenshots, went to Konpeki Plaza, took some more screenshots, stole the chip, stole Satori from the AV and killed the guards, used the power of saying no to protect myself as we moved down the hallway. Getting through the offices and down the lobby, where after we cleared it out, we received a robo-cow and an Amazon drone delivery, which wasn't difficult in the slightest, though I did have to play it up for the camera. Had to shoot said Amazon drone for customer satisfaction reasons. Dex shoots me and then Dex gets shot. Wake up a few days later with a new roommate who refuses to pay rent. This moment perfectly encapsulates the cyberpunk genre for me. Did some gigs, shopped for some clothes, took care of the street trash around and inside of the mega building for clouds, forgetting to use Sandevistan for the no stamina cost on blocking. Got caught trying to sneak in, eventually got in and got a hold of a cocktail stick, which seems like it really won't help me, which feels like a lot of the katanas in 2.0 seem to do a lot of the same things, just they have different cosmetics. Talked to Woodman and got Evelyn's location, did some parkour to level up skills to talk to Takamura and Oda. Bought medical upgrades, healed through an explosion during a gig to uphold some marriage vows, mainly to keep death from doing their part. I think I did come to the conclusion eventually that weapon damage does actually dictate the damage of deflections, hence why I started using a machete. Well, why do I feel like I went over this part 5 times? Especially since the katanas don't really have a lot of variety that would work with the system. Paid Rogue the matchmaker for the platinum plan to find me my matchmate in hell, but had to wait a day to see if he matches back. Went to a club to sneak into the VIP seat and hack the system to give myself free drinks for life. Went to go on a side quest, but it led me to a store I was at earlier, Wasn't sure what was up, so I bought some new clothes when suddenly a wild cyberpsycho appeared. Problem being that he only uses a melee weapon. So while I tried to wait till max tags showed up, I don't think it's possible. So I reloaded to save and went to another club where instead I allowed them to cause a mass shooting on themselves. Assassinated my target and tried for longer than I should to milk the last bit of XP from these guards. Did another gig in a server room where I was the fish in a barrel, while I ended up getting jump scared and flanked. Rode the train for a bit, felt more comfortable in my own shoes, did a crime in progress, and in some ways, while I am getting better, I seem to forget how to play the game, such as not using Sendevstan, or just not realizing I'm out of stamina, so I end up dying. Did better on my second attempt, though melee enemies still pose their own brains of annoyance that I don't know how to deal with quite yet, though I did take out the boss with Sandy, and after taking out 2 of the last 3, I was left with the sniper running around until thankfully she got blown up. Tried to sneak into another bar, smashing my face into the window and running all over the place, and after climbing through a window in the most conspicuous area possible, I just handled everything in the most surefire way. Held the funeral for Jackie, went to the afterlife, and actually sat down to wait so I could finally meet my match. Convo went well and she said that we should meet up. Rode over when some bridge trolls got angry at me for being a little handsy and saying my sword was bigger than theirs. While bouncing around, I accidentally discovered the key to being able to deal with melee enemies without having to rely on others to lend me their bullets. It seems that if you are on top of an object that they cannot pathfind their way to you, they will be forced to pull out a gun. With this knowledge restored for safekeeping, I meet with Pan Am, who takes me to meet her family, and we get packed to go on a dinner date, with some on-the-road entertainment by reenacting that scene from Cars, where after restoring the power to Good Springs, Lightning McQueen gets the townsfolk to rise up against the tax collectors that the state of California sends after them. I do actually agree with Pan Am on this.
That might have been the cherry on top.
Actually had a little bit of fun in the Nashville after-party tunnel, which I usually don't. Did use a few flashbangs to reposition, had a sniper that couldn't hit a cow's ass from broadside, took out Nash and shortly after killed the final 2. Dismantled things for resources, mulled over what I should level up when I noticed the final blade tree, which caused deflected bullets to apply bleed. And although the perk says bleeding cannot kill enemies, it's still good to have extra guaranteed damage if my stamina is on cooldown. Got a hold of a new vehicle and may have done a few unkosher things with it, but let's not pretend that they weren't going to be dead already anyways. Went to Jig Jig to talk to Fingers, upgraded one of my swords, changed outfits and played around with photo mode some, did the brain dance, made my way through the Freddy Krueger nightmare, found a new sword that I won't use, found Evelyn, talked to Mr. Hands, did the most mind-numbing cyberpsycho fight in this playthrough so far, did a crime in progress where I started applying Sandevastan as my bread and butter more, but I keep somehow getting the cops involved. Had dinner with Take On Me, joined Pan Am through a picnic through the ozone stand emissions of the power grid, went duck hunting and after a ride through the desert, fought with the security around Hellman for a bit until I died to the missile launcher which I thought I could outrun. Died again. Hacked the turret and then started fighting, staying mobile as possible until taking out the drone, and then thanks to the travel time of the robot's smart guns, I could more readily get perfect blocks. Saved Mitch, followed the Kangaroo Club to the airport and killed the ones that thought they were brave enough to handle what was coming for them. Found the rest at the pit stop, and as you can see, I'm only continuing to get better at this as I go along. Take out the rest, capture Hellman. Johnny floods my interrogation with the smell of fake nicotine so much that I blow some chunks. Unlock the final blade perk and test it out. Any damage I can get from it while I'm either hiding or healing obviously helps. Stopped for a bite to eat and some hooligans wanted a refund, but they signed away their right to life. A cashier is definitely a liar and a pussy who does not belong in this city. Finally met with Takamura to break into the Arasaka facility, though a new mission popped up that I knew would give me a katana, so I had to check it out. Found the surgeon, took out the tigers, slowly carried his ass up the stairs, and desperately wished for the transporter perk to come back, delivered him to the spot, and then got my reward. While the bleeding part of the katana is now irrelevant thanks to the perk that I got, the extra crit chance, assuming that does apply to deflections, would make it inherently better than any other katana in my arsenal, so I equipped it, and while I'm not sure if it's actually going to work or not, it does feel like I'm getting marginally better results, even though outside of Sandevastan, I'm getting fairly frequent critical hits from normal blocks. Lured my one-man war to a familiar place where I recruited from the nearby Toaster League, still shredded the police until I hit 5 stars and had nowhere to run, so I escaped into the doctor's office where a confidentiality clause forced him to stand down. Upgraded my augments and even bought some that might or might not help. Fast traveled to where a 7-nation army tried to hold me up, then attacked the Arasaka Postal Service Center, and it really was just as much of a slaughter as you can expect it to have been by now. Had a little bit of issues while on the inside, namely focused around this one staircase where movement was difficult, enemies kept showing up out of nowhere, and otherwise just felt like it took longer for some reason. Hacked into the float, killed the reinforcements that spawned, and walked my happy ass right out the front door to end the mission. When I logged back in, I was briefly overcome by the spirit of Danny DeVito, went to an arcade and trashed a couple of noobs, went to the avocados after Pan DM'd me, upgraded my sanity, then rode to the Shank Bank to rescue Saul. Sneaked through until I got caught trying to get some Gucci, though after remembering that getting found out will trigger the car chase and how bad that went for me last time, I reloaded to save to do better and be really careful so we can go through the tunnel to our hovel of a home for tonight. I did reload to save to go back and fight the group both at night and in the day, though I'm not really sure why I did this, though during the day it did give me more XP, so that's a valid reason. Did a little bit of meandering around, doing more crime so I could level up, went to the church, wandered around, changed my outfit, went in, hung around, me and Proceed raced to see who gets time on the Xbox first, so I ended up having to go play outside, where I stumbled onto a Hustlers University convention, which it wasn't difficult to deflect their logical fallacies, as I had become a master of deflection this whole time, and the last one was stumped by the fact that he never did leg day, but I was touched by one part of their dogma: I must go and get in swole. So after that, I took a trip to the gym, but a roid rage epidemic has taken hold, infesting the local water supplies for the local ecosystem to spread out in a mass panic, as I desperately defend myself. In the confined spaces, it's difficult to isolate any melee enemies, as trying to force them into shooting would leave me vulnerable, but trying to get an angle where I can force some friendly fire isn't very easy either. The Netrunner hacks into the gates lower down, which really does work into my advantage, as now I can get the high ground in the center of the mall. I'm able to take out plenty of troops by peeking out of cover, and then once those were cleared out, I went to the other side of the room to make use of the turret and its accuracy to my advantage before destroying it and then the remaining enemies. After hacking the van, I moved forward to try to run around Sasquatch but ended up getting caught. I stealthed around to the cinema entrance because I figured it would be pretty much impossible to fight her, though I did make a hard save to then just do it for shits and giggles. I do start by stealing her sledgehammer. Starting the fight instantly gets me taken down and uploaded with the virus that apparently does nothing. It's just for flair or something. Getting knocked down, I get back up again and try to stand on a box, but she goes to melee, so I try to see if I can find some higher ground. Though when the hail of bullets come my way, I'm pleasantly surprised as I didn't actually think she would have a gun. I run around a bit to try to get it happen again. I break her animation, though it wasn't until I jumped on a billboard that after a brief shadowboxing session with her reflection, she did it again until I ran out of stamina and I had to retreat to heal. My critical bleeding seems to be enough to keep her from regenerating too much, but it seems like she just doesn't heal as fast as she used to anyways. But each time I got on the next sign, they would depress it to the floor, like the Netwatcher knew what my plans were at this point. I remember the boxes at the entrance, and thankfully they were high enough to work, so after a few poor moments of trying for perfect blocks, I let my sandy rip and let the numbers fly across the screen. After that, Sasquatch was made extinct, much to my satisfaction. I get to the Watcher, and after talking, I'm not sure how I want to handle this because frankly I want to kill Brigetta and all the VDBs myself. So I punch him, which didn't deal damage, and then I reflected his bullet to incapacitate him, to then hack in, revive, and go tell Mama it's my turn to play. I play through the Classics collection when I'm pulled out until it's time to go to bed, so I begin the process of putting all the VDBs offline. When the AI gets potato aimed, this whole build really falls apart. Mama tried to cripple me, but when she put it against my head, she pulled the trigger, now she's dead. Made my way out of the subway and let Proceed commit Sudoku so I could eat fresher. Caught a whisper from a bird to play with the big dogs. Started walking over to the Nomad camp, making and mutilating a whole bunch of new friends along the way. Then lost all my footage of anything involving the train, and after, picking back up with Judy getting set back up with her ex to do a hostile takeover of her other ex's place of work. Kill Woody Allen, then after sulking at my lost time and memories, I go for a joyride and make a point to ignore all instructions. Had a little fun before doing this tedious shit again, having to encourage my team to actually take aim, though when you're both experiencing atomic overlap, I can see how that would be difficult. Gave a few bumps which did not deal damage, and they eventually finished. Did some gigs, really kind of wondering if that shirt is as comfortable as it looks like it is. Became the Mercman Beyond, caught some heat, pinned my ride, went cruising for a bruising and schlepping for a weapon. Had to deal with the bruising first though. Bought a weapon mod, bought the crafting specs for a sword, got sidetracked by a whole host of gigs and side quests while waiting for Judy to get ready to tell me of her master plan, including trying to assassinate a target who, by offloading her capacity for violence onto her subordinates to support her own pacifism, I was unable to harm until I reloaded the save to win via secondhand mutiny. Had to sleep over at Judalicious' house. Went to sign up for a friendly competition when I was subjected to a drive-by, then subjected to another instance of police brutality. paid a visit to the cult of Walter White, spent some quality recording time. Me and the gang met up to take the clouds by storm. Though I got stuck in the basement, as the remaining enemy was a melee one, who I could not get to pull a gun out. So I reloaded to save, and though it took some work to get positioned, I was able to deal good damage to him until I died, and my life work pulled my soul back from hell to strike with a vengeance. Accidentally again killed the gun guy while the big boy was in ass-whooping mode. He got whittled down by Judy shooting at him. I distracted him, but I killed him by parrying accidentally, so I redid it. Almost had the same situation happen, but he was sent to the great sushi place beyond. Took out the guards before going into the room with the CEOs of questionable reputation. Got a new sword that I'm sure doesn't work with deflections either, though I never actually tried it. Was sent on the trail of a murder mystery where I want to murder whoever the hell authorized that haircut to exist in any reality. Got interrupted by some wannabe carjackers who were prone to taking hostages and firing blanks. Thanks to the aid of random civilians and the one with a nerf gun having aimbot, we got through with that situation. Found a side entrance to the red room, dealt with the animals, left the eye candy at the front to live, made some stains on the carpet, paid for the muscle to hustle even though they're probably going to die from blood loss, did some parkour on the way to the apartment, talked to Takamura about the parade, which then spontaneously materialized around me. Went to the first sniper, and while he got confused, he did figure it out. The flying toasters didn't really mind, blew myself up, got to the second one, fought my way up the ranks to the third and final sniper, got chased out of the elevator, but I stood above him in his final moments. Got swarmed in the last area, but all foes remained neutralized. In the fight with Oda, there's a lot of waiting around for him to get around pulling out his gun, but once he finally remembers, there's not a lot of damage to show for it on individual numbers. But when this phase runs out, he had lost around 5% of his health, which is a manageable amount to contend with, and while standing on the sandbag to try to force him into gun mode seems to be the first time where it actually didn't work, as he just idles for a while. I get him down to 73% and decide to reload the fight so I get up the difficulty to try to deal more damage. It does seem to be marginally more, but when he got to the point where he would hide and heal, I had the issue of where I had to watch him heal in full because he wasn't getting stopped by me playing tag with him like he usually does. I let this continue on for a while, but eventually I do hit him once to get him out of it. Oda is playing by Dark Souls rules where he gets iframes on backflips, a bit of dancing around, and eventually he goes back to healing, but thankfully he does come out of it on his own. Though I get trapped in this loop where I'm only able to deal enough damage to him that it just undoes his healing, but his healing itself undoes my damage. Unless something changes, I'll be caught in a stalemate, and since he just heals every phase now, I'm having a hard time figuring out on when or what I'll have to do, so I go back out and turn down the difficulty. Running around the room, I find another sandbag that when standing on it breaks his animations again, but when I give him the chance to come down and do it again, he goes into gun mode, though the damage still isn't much. However, at this critical point, I remember the basics of the perk. Accidentally perfect parrying bullets deals hundreds of damage, and that this isn't going to come down to any more tricks. This is going to come down to being straightforward by applying the lessons I've learned throughout this playthrough, to master a fighting style that no one else in this city could have comprehended. Repeating for a few times, I loaded the very hard mode again, taking him to half health in half a minute. Though again I had to contend with him healing all the way to full once more, only this one time though, as from here on out, it's nothing more than a good old-fashioned ass-kicking. Hey guys, Future Harshin here. I originally just had a sequence here where I simply cheesed the fight, but to be honest, it did not deserve the hype that I was starting to give it. So instead I went back to give the video something worth it for how long it took to make this video. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoy it. Take a few trophies, take a few pictures, take a hostage, take out some cops, take myself out by trying to get onto the float, and then sent to the Oda fight. I am not doing that shit again. Comment if you feel like this invalidates the run, I do not give a fuck. I already probably did invalidate it when I had to hit him out of camo a few times anyways. I get a stylish finish, don't die on the way down this time. I flee to clear the scene and make sure that the police don't expect my involvement by taking a gig with some junk in my trunk. He tries to plead with me, but the supply does not get to make demands, and the product does not get services. Spent a long time trying to find the button that was staring me in the face. Went to a rundown shithole where I was a little too confident in my ability to perfect parry, considering the shit I just went through. Committed a series of armed home intrusions, with 2/3 of them being to someone's assistance. I did die when I got surrounded trying to meet a hot single in my area. On the roof, I got some space to breathe while my backup heart got kickstarted. Danced around, and after the riffraff was dispatched, I met said hot single and gave her a shot of ice water to cool her off before carrying away and off the roof. I'm pretty sure she's still breathing. Snuck into a shrine to steal from the donation box, got spotted at the last second, which apparently news travels pretty fast around here. Did it properly the second time. Was given a new sword that, while it looks good for pictures, it will not help my new build. Proved that dry land is not a myth, from the dark depths to the shining streets, getting a few glamour shots before starting the race, where I take the lead immediately. Getting thrown off by the minimap blind being different from the race, almost ruining it at the last second, but recovering not so flawlessly. Went to the Peralez estate again to deduce the fact that they are on the set of the hit Disney show Lab Rats. I discovered that their broadcasts were being pirated, so I hitched a ride on the van to their secret lair, and took out all of their cyborg minions. Called up the wife while hauling my load, met with her to tell her husband for her that things just aren't working out, and an elusive man watches over me as I cause this man's world to unravel around him. Unlocked Franklin's ability from GTA 5, went to the hideout and actually forgot how many knocks it takes to not get exploded. Never actually realized Adam Smasher showed up here. Funny how being in daylight changes things. Jumped my way up to get the extra XP from all these kills, not to save Tatanka Owachi like he thought I was there to do. Hallways were a little crowded and throwing flashbangs were really not a great idea. Both sides only did that once. They all killed each other, took a picture of the aftermath, escaped the building, and then spent a night in one hotel. The mail order bride creeped me out a little too much, so I blacked out and picked a different hotel. On my way to Afterlife, I was accosted by Arasaka associates, which is fine. Unequipped as blasphemous filth, and was assisted by my fellow mercenaries to gang up on my attackers, who did seem to have a lot of health, but the power of equal rights and equal lefts proved to be an undeniable fact of life. Sadly, my comrades turned on me once they realized I brought this smoke onto their turf. I looked around for somewhere I could get the high ground, found it and got shot in the ass, but then found a second one. Waited for them to handle each other when I found out that Night City had an inchworm problem. When that was done, I chipped in to chunk out, get chucked out, and check out from another damn hotel room. Spent some time trying to get the spooky bitch to show up, and while she can be forced into using a gun as well, it's a damn revolver and her aim sucks to boot. Met up with Rogue, who gave me a jacket she won from the claw machine. I put it on and we went to claim our deadliest catch, Adam Smasher, whose acolytes with automatic weapons were very proficient from untangling the meat from their metal while they beat the shit out of Rwanda. Changed outfits, tried to take out the dude, but his walking fleshlight kicked my ass until Granny Rag saved me by shooting him. Let Rogue play whack-a-mole with his meninges. Me and Johnny ride to Pollution Paradise to reminisce on how long the road has been and how it's about to come to an end. Called up Rogue, who somehow made it back to the bar and geared up for a date in record time. After that fling didn't work out, Johnny wanted to have a taste for the other side, and using my body to do such thing. Did a little breaking and fingering, had to call our PR rep who, according to her assistant, is currently occupied with a walking Rolls Royce to answer. I tried to escort her out, but she made a napkin drawing of Royce rocking out to Vocaloid, and he can't let his image slide, so he refuses to let her keep it. So instead, she gives it to me to smuggle out, though I get pushed away from the door, so I had to improvise to go out the window, come close to getting caught multiple times, and zip my way to the elevator. On the way to Denny's for their pancake slam, I run into some cats on the prowl who forget to look both ways. I desecrate the corpse, and continue onto a minefield. And when I finally get there, someone spilled all the pancake batter. After the gig is scheduled, I meet up with a Woozy Floozy to get her advice on dealing with pesky paparazzi. But first she needed me to edit an accidental promo from her recent music video. I get a backstage pass from the bartender who turned tables by complaining to me, call her manager giving her embarrassing Christmas photos to the media, did the deed and then skedaddled. Paid the wise man his due, did a shooting contest. Didn't realize there was a timer on this contest until writing the script and looking at this part of the video. Heard some shots go off and an X show up on my map as I went to talk to Barry about his pet snail. Coming out, I'm still not quite sure what the fuck happened, but I didn't want to take my chances of messing up the mission by getting the two downstairs cops involved. Paid my respects to the turtle, told the cops that they did not know the way. iRobot, Delmain close-up. I had to fight for my right to party, and party we fucking did. Cleared out another gang with a little flourish and got my call returned by Lizzie to hold up her end of the deal. Admired the scenery, and then like a mama cat killing an animal for her kittens to train on, she showed me exactly how to handle the media types and put them right where they belong. Kinda had a little bit of a moment while I drove to the inn, actually tentatively unsure if I wanted to end this playthrough. I kinda just stared at the marker. ignored Hanako, weighed our options before blanking out and waking up with a choice to make. But my mind was already made up, I just had to wait for Johnny to reach the same conclusion. Walked in, did my fighting game intro, and then instantly killed the only guy with a gun. Trying to run only got me stopped by the hard light wall, did find a ledge in the mech room and did get taken down. But I revived, and when I tried to make it to the ledge, I just kept falling like a dumbass and then died for real. Went through the whole loading process to get back to the fight, killed one melee guy, and then the gun guy Mr. President did his own collateral kill. Reloaded the game to normal difficulty because I am in fact a sensible person sometimes, then cleared the first room. The mechs weren't anything to worry about, even if they could hit pretty hard. After that, I needed to steal a Chuck E. Cheese token from a guard, so I had to take on the next wave. One of which really disagreed with me on him dying until a crit finally killed him. Once again, I end up having to deal with at least one enemy who is either too stupid to shoot or smart enough to know that's all it takes to win. I had enough time to read a book and he still wouldn't attack me, so I struck first to prompt him to fight back. He dropped a token, but I continued to kill off soldiers as they showed up, but upon realizing my health is actually going down, I grabbed the token, took cover, and thinned the herd and ammo supplies they could send at me, then ran to the elevator. Was bummed I couldn't grab that shard, pushed forward in the underground levels into where the plugin for ult should be. Using the high ground to aim above cover, I could cripple the mech and kill soldiers before moving down. With half health, I had to now stick to cover and carefully plan my engagements based on who I can use for damage, who has too much health, who can see me, etc. I could move forward when things cleared up and take out the rest. I open up the hatch, but the final wave approaches. I get flanked by heavies, but can maneuver around them, and once the last one is killed, I plug in ult to do her thing. With that, only one more challenge remains. Smasher makes his entrance, and while his visuals seem to have been updated, it's really not that great. He's taking a while to go down, and that's really just because I'm doing less perfects to keep myself out of harm's way. Despite that, I get him down to 50 and wait for him to do his missile barrage. Oh, wait a minute, did he just... Okay, I guess they updated the visuals to match the anime. That's neat. I dodged the missiles just fine and now have to contend with the snipers. Oh, he's faster now. Okay, so he straight up just has us in devastating now as well. That's concerning. Never mind, they straight up reworked him a good bit. Well done, Project Red. I knew you'd find the balls to do it eventually. I'm actually kind of scared to fight him right now, but that might just be because my health's draining and that I'm on the YOLO ending, but still, didn't think you'd actually do it. I end up killing the heavy gunners and most of the snipers, which will turn out to be a mistake, as they left one quirk in of his where after damaging him enough he loses his machine guns. Yet they also managed to make that work in his favor, because now he only zips across the room to bitch slap my ass into another dimension, or to use a damn grenade launcher, which I cannot parry. I try to run around and get an angle that I can try to use the last sniper to my advantage, but while running around some rockets he gets emulsified and I'm left with no other options left. I try to see if there's anything I can do, but eventually I have to reload the fight and start over. Up my drip and whittle him down until I get his machine gun attack, which is a real moneymaker, but he starts using his grenades and dashing around, which I can't really do anything to work with. He knocks me out of the air. I dart between the pillars to avoid his shots, but he uses his machine guns while there's cover between me and him, so that was a wasted opportunity. He dashes some more, really more like teleports, but he seems really happy with himself until he gives me 2 opportunities to counter, which puts him at half health, so he begins his next phase. He runs to rocket while his backup dancers walk in. I do a dumb thing and he gets at least one of them killed, though I forget how to perfect block, so I have to run away again. I get one more machine gun attack that I can use, but after that he stops using it, so it turns into me trying to get the chance of a good angle, where I can hit the sniper shots toward him, but no good moment presented itself to me, so me and Smasher continue to bounce around the arena while I periodically can get a hit in. Thankfully the snipers are the closest thing to normal people in the room right now, so they don't really move around much, which gives me a couple placements for me to try to get him to stand at so I can deal damage. When he fires his rockets, I realize I can stand in certain areas to avoid damage while I can deal it instead. I get him to a tantalizing 8%, and then when I'm sure he's going to eventually kill me, I get one final perfect to put him in his last phase, where he himself will fire slow shots that I can parry, and then he's done for. I do agree with V, I had gotten good by this point. Celebrate a long-fought victory, Johnny says the thing, return from the Matrix and get dressed like a Kingdom Hearts character, grab the only thing in this armory worth using, one final screenshot, meet up with the crew to go on my trip to Disney World to expose Mickey Mouse's darkest secrets. And I guess I potentially beat Cyberpunk using only bullet deflections. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I ask that if you did, please leave a like and let me know in the comments what part was your favorite, and if you have any more ideas for a challenge. Subscribe if you'd like to stay tuned for more videos, and I hope you have a good one. Harshin out.